Good morning, everyone, or whatever time of day it is where you are. Guys, we finally made it. We've made it to the day of the United States election. Guys, if you've not noticed already, dark forces and a dark enemy start to reveal itself. You're seeing snippets of this reveal in the mainstream, and a lot of high-profile commentators are coming out and talking about this. Let me just give you guys an analogy of where we are right now in humanity's existence. Right now, humanity is kind of like behind the wall at Helm's Deep. The Orc army is approaching. We're about to have a huge battle, the first of many battles that good versus evil is going to fight, and we are vastly outnumbered. If Donald Trump manages to win the US election, that will be like the elf army turning up. That will give us at least a fighting chance. If Donald Trump does not win the US presidency and Kamala Harris wins the US presidency, that will be like Theoden, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and the rest of the minuscule troops that they have left to fight the dark forces. So that is literally where we are at the moment, guys, in our history. If the United States choose to elect Donald Trump, we have a fighting chance. The war's inevitable. There's no way we can stop the war. This is coming. It's happening. There's no way around it. I would suspect that we're looking like a catastrophic strike on Israel Friday, potentially. I think Friday, if Donald Trump wins. Everybody's talking about this, guys. You know, there's a lot of people in the mainstream media. There's a lot of pundits now saying things that I've been saying for months and months and months. Remember, we're going to see this divergence. The United States they have to focus on the Middle East because they're the only ones with the logistics to pull that off. The Europeans, we have to pull our big boy pants up, and fight the Russians in Ukraine. I don't want this to happen. I'm saying this is what has to happen because the opposite to this, a socialist takeover is far worse than what we have at the moment. We're in late stage capitalism. We don't have capitalism anymore. We're broken. We have destroyed ourselves from, internally. But again, what we have is better than what would be forced upon us. So I'm going to try and keep this video relatively short this morning, guys. I'm going to do a longer stint video later on today. But I just want to share with you a couple of articles that have come out in the mainstream that are relevant to what we've been talking about. So this one here, guys, Iran fears Trump win would bring Israeli strikes on nuclear sites, Western sanctions. Now, what the article goes on about, and the details of the article, the details of the details. It basically talks about what Iran's fearing. Now, I've been saying this for such a long time. I've been talking about this divergence that's happening. Now, the reason this has to happen, this divergence between friends, between East and West, between the United States and Europe, is because of manpower. There just isn't enough manpower to go around. And the United States can't fight a battle right now on two fronts. Imagine if you and your friend are divvying up work. And there's a lot of work to do. And you say to your friend, right, mate, look at this task we've got to do. And he's like, yeah, wow, that is huge. And they're like, right, okay, can you deal with that over there on your own? And your friend's like, well, I mean, probably, but I'd rather your help. And then your friend said, and you say to your friend, right, okay, I've got to do all this over here. And your friend looks at you and, with like the bro nod, the bro nod. He looks at you and he's like, right, okay, yeah, fair one, mate. You've got to deal with that because, for the greater good of humanity, this needs to happen. Now, as we slide and descend into whatever chaos is about to ensue, we just need to understand that right now we are standing we're standing behind the wall at Helm's Deep. The Orc army is coming. They're starting to reveal themselves. They're starting to come out of the woodwork, and we really need that elf army. So Americans, you guys kind of need to vote Donald Trump or, it really will be the end of the West. Some of the things and the reports that I'm hearing out of California are absolutely wild. California no longer seems to be this free state that everyone used to think it is. You know, from what I understand from speaking to my friends who live in Texas, you know, California has descended into a totalitarian state when, you know, people are allowed to shoplift, people are allowed to openly commit crime. It seems there's no law and order there, and people are leaving in droves. So what do they? So these people who are behind the scenes, who are operating this, what is their end goal? Because it's certainly not money. It really is not money. Now, if you follow this back far enough, it starts to become terrifying. Now, I'm not going to follow this all the way back. I'm just going to leave it where it should be right now. That if the United States does not elect Donald Trump, then we kind of have to face the Orc army on our own, and that's not going to be a good sign for anyone behind the wall at Helm's Deep. So I've got another article here, guys, I want to share with you, which is just kind of confirmation to some of the things we've been saying on this channel. US intelligence warns Iran and Russia may try to sow discord after election. Do you think that could happen? Guys, I said at the beginning of this video, you know, I'm looking at the potential for a catastrophic strike on Israel this Friday. You know, after the US election, I see that the time that the Iranians would strike Israel. What would that do? That would bring the United States into a wider conflict. Now, my timelines for these things are often too aggressive. They're often too, I see these things laid out in front of us, but, you know, often it takes a lot of time for these things to catch up. Sometimes I'm way behind with my timelines, but this Friday is the earliest time that this can realistically happen. You know, it makes no sense for people to, it makes no sense for anyone to do this before Friday. Let me just find another article, see if I can get this, guys. There's another article I wanted to show you guys, and it shows you why things. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, and it shows you why things happen on a Friday. Now, you know, I did a video on the other platform quite a while ago, and I said, you know, guys, bad things happen on a Friday, and people started putting in the comments all the bad things that have happened that wasn't on a Friday, and I was like, yeah, okay, right, bad things normally happen on a Friday, and here's why. So Israel's use of air-launched ballistic missiles against Iran sparks market interest. Weapon speed and moving launch point make it more resistant to air defense than its ground-based counterparts and the cruise missile used by most major powers, experts say. So they're talking about air-launched systems. So these are like the, I'm assuming, I mean, this is really, wow. I mean, these are external fuel tanks. I don't know what these missiles are, but I'm assuming this is the air-launched payload, although it looks like a fuel tank. I don't know. It looks like a fuel tank to me. I think that picture's erroneous. But anyway, what they're talking about is Israel's use of air-launched ballistic missiles. Now, if you own shares in one of these companies, you know, air-launched ballistic missiles, and then you manage to use them successfully, guess what? You can make a ton of money on the stock market, because as soon as you use these things and they're really successful, people say, okay, that company there is going to advance because that's what's going to be used in this next conflict. You know, and you need to understand where people are putting their money right now. Go and look at the Go and look at the share price of. Go and look at the price of gold. When gold rockets like it has done, it's never a good sign for global conflict. But also go and look at the share price in the last 4 years of BAE Systems, Raytheon, Lockheed, who's the other big ones? Leonardo. You guys know what they are. You know, all these companies, their share price is rocketing because people know what is coming. Just as we mentioned, the air launch systems. Now, the relevance of being able to air launch system and why. And look into the Ukraine conflict quickly, and then we'll come back because I want to focus this video on the United States and Donald Trump. The air launch missile systems, they're really what's the word I'm looking for? They're better than ground-based systems because that aircraft is, it's essentially a launch pad for a cruise missile. Now, a lot of the Russian systems, of course, the Russians have got the huge, like 3-ton glided munitions. But the air launch systems like the Scalp and the I think they're Scalp, Taurus, and Storm Shadow. I think they're the main ones that are being used at the moment by the Europeans. Now, the significance of that is being able to launch that very quickly from anywhere that F-16 or that aircraft can go. So you can think of, how quickly an aircraft can move and it can maneuver and it can get to places that potentially, a ground team with your Scud type missiles would be able to launch. You just can't do that with, you can do that a lot quicker with aircraft. You can also launch these missiles from oblique angles, so angles that the enemy wouldn't be expecting an attack to come from. So that's why they are so critical, and that's why it's an inevitability that these things are going to be, that they're going to be, that the Ukrainians are going to get the green light to use these. Now, I will talk about the conflict in Ukraine a little bit, actually, guys, because we've started talking about it. But there are reports now coming out of Ukraine that the North Korean troops that are in Ukraine are vast. They've been, where are we? Yeah, I'll just share this with you guys. I think, like we said this would happen, the North Korean troops, you've got to understand the situation in North Korea. It's not good. So inexperienced, obviously, these troops from North Korea are inexperienced. That doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're inexperienced. So you can still be a highly trained troop, but have little experience. There was a lot of inexperienced but highly trained operators in the British military in 2002. Doesn't mean they're bad operators, just means they're inexperienced. Obviously, poorly trained. These two things are not. These two things, being poorly trained and inexperienced, are not synonymous with each other. You can be inexperienced and poorly trained, and you can be poorly trained and experienced. It's obviously ideal to be experienced and well trained, but it's not ideal to be inexperienced and poorly trained. And underfed. This is the sad thing for me, guys. These North Korean guys. Like, if this report's true, and I'm gonna say it is. If this report is true, then these guys going into these conflicts, look at this guy. Look at him here. Can I make this? Does he look like he's underfed? Does that guy look like he's poorly fed right there? What's he been eating? Look at them little podgy legs. Look at them. And his little black suit and his leather jacket. He's got his USP. Anyway, so when I hear these things about troops being underfed and malnourished, I many moons ago, I was a private soldier and I started my career in 1st Battalion Parachute Regiment, so I understand how difficult things are, but, food was never an issue. You always got 3 meals a day and, it was good food, actually, so when I hear these things about people being underfed and malnourished, I kind of want these North Koreans to surrender straight away and just say, look, guys, you know what? I'm not interested in this anymore. I don't want this sort of stuff. I want to be westernized. I want to be liberalized. And I want to be part of this, the West, whatever we've got. Because, if you want to know what is coming in the United Kingdom, what is coming in the West, if Donald Trump doesn't win, kind of look over here and look at this sort of stuff where you have big fat government, authorities that are just taking and taking and taking. And they are just, look at this squirrel incident in the United States where the government burst into somebody's house and, euthanized their pet. If you think that's bad, you've seen nothing yet. You have seen absolutely nothing. So Kim Jong-un has called his army the strongest in the world, but they are vulnerable to malnutrition and none having seen combat now the terrain in Russians' war. So that's an oxymoronical statement in itself, isn't it? We have the strongest army in the world. They are just vulnerable to malnutrition. They've not got any experience and they're poorly trained. It's just wild rhetoric that's coming out of North Korea. Anyway, so that's kind of I just wanted to leave this as a small update right now, guys, on the situation in the United States. What the world faces if Donald Trump doesn't win. We're heading towards a global conflict right now, guys, and that is kind of, I think the Lord of the Rings analogy is, I think it's a good one, whereas by the West right now are standing behind that wall at Helm's Deep. The Orc army is approaching. We're vastly outnumbered, and we're probably going to lose against the Orcs. We need a miracle. Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump doesn't come without problems. Yes, he does, but he's a lot better than what we would be faced with Kamala Harris. With a Donald Trump presidency, he would fight for Western values. And guess what? I agree that we need Western values. You know, he would empower Westerners to fight back against whatever these globalist forces are, whatever these, you know, this Chinese takeover, the Russian takeover, the Iranian takeover. You know, these things that are moving forwards, and we can see them every day. You know, look at the wild things that Tucker Carlson's talking about. Look at the wild things now that more people are talking about these, you know, these good versus evil attacks that are actually, you know, they're actually saying these things are real physical entities now. So as the Orc army gets closer, you know, this is going to be the first of many battles. We're heading into a global conflict of an industrial scale. If Donald Trump manages to win the US presidency, we have a fighting chance of prevailing. If Kamala Harris wins, we don't really have a fighting chance. You know, we'll still fight and we'll try our best. But the reality is we'll be sucked into a socialist doom. And whether it's 1984, Brave New World, you guys take your pick. But nothing good will come of that. Let me just, there's one more. Let me see if I've got it up here, guys, on the on my I don't think I have it. Right, I'll do it later. But no, hang on. No, I will do that. I'll do this later, guys. I'm going to do a longer video later on. I wanted to keep this relatively short. But remember from yesterday's video when I talked about the situation in Iran and this naked woman protesting, just go and do your own search now and look how the media are hyper promoting that incident. You know, they're everybody's talking about that a lot more than they should. Now, this is why I'm saying that we could see a catastrophic strike on Israel by this Friday. Anyway, guys, I am going to get you guys another longer video later on when I'm going to talk about the state of things in the United Kingdom, the state of things in the world in general. I'm going to be talking more about the situation in Iran, Israel, the Middle East. I'm going to be talking about the US strike groups that are slowly moving over there. We're going to be talking about things that have been happening on the front line in Ukraine. We're going to be putting all this together and giving you guys a holistic view of global tensions right now as we stand in 2024, moving into a global conflict of an industrial scale. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'm going to max grade it. I'll get you guys another video later.